Hello and welcome. My name is Maggie, and it's a pleasure to be your guide today to welcome you to part three of Discover Self Care through Ayurveda. As part of the San Antonio Public Library Adult Online Learning Program, it's my pleasure to review some interesting and unique approaches to self care through developing healthy habits. So welcome to part three, Spring Tips to Balance Your Doshas, a free wellness program endorsed by the Mayor's Fitness Council here in San Antonio. We're welcome to have you here, and which is part of our monthly sessions beginning in January. And for this month, looking at balancing our doshas for the spring season. And next month, we invite you to join us for Food as Medicine on April 14th. So Ayurveda, what is Ayurveda? In general, Ayurveda can be viewed as a yoga lifestyle for modern times, including everything we do from what we eat, how we move and breathe, the careers and choices we make in our path in life, the relationships we're in, as well as how we respond to stress. As always, we like to just pause and take a moment to check in with our mind and our body, how we're breathing, honoring the moment, the time that we are taking here for reflection so that we can better choose a healthier and more invigorating path forward. And also being aware of what are the factors that are impacting my overall mind, body well-being, including the change in seasons, other impacts like the COVID, economic impacts, imbalance in our days, in our work schedules, life balance is changing. So just honoring and being aware of the sources of potential stress and ways to bring greater balance to these areas. So how do you feel with your daily self-care routine? You can rank yourself from 1 to 10, 10 being best. You've got it rocked in and you're rolling with it. You've got a great AM and PM bookend, or maybe a 0 or a 1, where every day's different. There's really no rhyme or reason to what you do, especially when it comes to self-care. So just self-assess where you are right now. And then what would you like to get out of this session? What would you most like to learn about your daily routine and how it would apply to a change in the season for like the springtime? So now Ayurveda, known as the science of life, Ayurveda comes from the Sanskrit word, and the root words of Ayu means life, and Veda is Sanskrit for the science or the knowledge of life. And so in general, it's a view of knowing the knowledge for the entire lifespan. Ayurveda is estimated to be about a 5,000-year-old system of healing. It's based on consciousness, being aware of self and our connection to our external self in our environment around us. Originating from India, the main focus of Ayurveda is to return to our natural state of health, balance, and wholeness. It emphasizes an approach in consciousness, so being aware and awake in each step we take in our daily living. And very characteristic and unique to Ayurveda is that it relies on being aware of how we use all 5 senses to inform and expand ourselves into higher levels of consciousness, and to be aware of how we are not only taking in energy and information from all of our sensory inputs, but how we are digesting this energy and information, and how that is transforming us at the cellular level, at our mental state, and how we show up in our mind and body and spirit. So Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences, and they work synchronistically, beautifully together. So if you do yoga, we invite you to come off the mat and to begin to live your yoga, including concepts from the field of Ayurveda. So while we know that yoga is mostly the physical practice on the mat, There is a broader approach to yoga known as the Ashtanga yoga approach, and it includes 8 different aspects of practicing this to attain the mind-body connection so that we are showing up on the mat and off the mat, fully aware of self and choosing more wisely everything we bring into our mind and body. Then Ayurveda works to then, with the purified body from yoga, we then work to bring that healing balance, to maintain balance throughout the seasons, and to recognize the unique aspect of ourselves, our mind-body constitution, known as the doshas. So what you need to know about Ayurveda is that you don't have to be a vegetarian, and you don't have to love Indian food. You don't even have to practice yoga or meditation, although you'll want to after you learn all the benefits about it. And while it comes from the ancient language of Sanskrit, you don't have to be fluent in it. You do need to care about your health, and you do need to want to be in harmony with nature, your environment, and everything around you. And you do need to want to bring balance and harmony into your daily living. So some of the key concepts in Ayurveda to review from our past sessions include there's 5 elements that Ayurveda says are found in everything from the stellar stars of the universe to our bodies and our cellular nature. So these 5 elements are considered the building blocks of nature that make up everything, which we can perceive through our senses. So they're known as space, air, fire, water, and earth. And each of these elements have characteristics, which are very important when it comes to balancing our mind and body constitution. Now, when these 5 elements are combined, they are combined in pairs. And when they come together, the elements form this sort of universal energy that have unique characteristics. And it is these combined elements that form what are called the 3 doshas, also known as the mind-body constitutions. So everything in the universe has these qualities, all 3 of these doshas, in unique ratios. So when we talk about balance, it's not equal portions of the Vata and the Pitta and the Kappa. It's your unique combination, similar to your fingerprint. When we have a combination of these 5 elements believed to happen at the time of conception, it's as if you are being given this blueprint of an energetic constitution. Your characteristic, your natural way of being is a combination of these 5 elements into one or more of these doshas. So you will have the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kappa as part of your mind-body constitution. So Vata is a combination of space and air elements, and the primary functions for Vata is this movement and transportation. So the qualities for Vata are cold, light, dry, sharp, irregular, rough, mobile, quick, and changeable. So if you think of space and air, the characteristics you would normally think about space and air would be the same that would be found in the doshic constitution of a Vata. And when in balance, each dosha will have its own characteristics. So Vata, when in balance, will feel energetic, creative, adaptable, showing initiative, a good communicator, a feeling of spontaneity is natural, and enthusiasm and liveliness. But when there's too much air, think of when there's too much air just going around all the time. An imbalanced state of Vata energy might lead to an overactive mind. You might have a feeling of anxiety or worry, inconsistency, indecisiveness, maybe insomnia or constipation, or even gas, bloating, and fatigue. So all of these are a sign of imbalance of the space and air. And so when we look at Pitta, let's look first at the qualities. So as Pitta, the dosha Pitta is made up of the elements of fire and water, but it's not an equal ratio. It's mostly fire, around 70% fire and 30% water. So if you think about that, the qualities for a Pitta mind-body constitution would be like mostly fire. So it'd be hot and light and intense and penetrating and pungent, maybe even sharp, acidic, and definitely moist because of that water. or when it's overheated, you get that moisture and condensation. So the characteristics for a Pitta is mostly fiery in nature. Now, what does a Pitta look like or feel like when it is in a balanced state? Like a warm fire, you might feel that bright, warm, friendly, and focused energy, as well as see the intelligent and the decisive nature of a natural leader with a strong digestion, which is the seat of Pitta, and then someone who's very passionate. But when there's too much fire, what happens with there's too much log put on the fire? An imbalanced Pitta energy might then fire up, and you might feel this anger, this irritability, excessively critical, judgmental, too much fire, aggressive, maybe even skin rashes on the body, inflammation, anything red in the joints or the body, or a sense of indigestion. And then when we look at Kappa, so Kappa is the third dosha, and it's combined of equal parts of water and earth. So the primary functions of Kappa is this protection, stability, and structural integrity. And when you think of water and earth coming together equally, forming sort of this mud or this clay, the qualities you can probably already see for yourself would be maybe a cold quality, a heaviness, solid and stable and maybe smooth, oily because of the watery, and slow, steady, and soft, right? See, there's the qualities of a Kappa energy with Kappa. So in balance, you might feel the steady, consistent, and loyal, kind of a strong, grounded, and supported energy, very loving, content, calm, and patient. But when there's too much earth and water that you put together, can you feel that heaviness already? It might be too much. So in a state of imbalance, you might feel the sense of dullness, inertia, neediness or attachment, too clingy, or congested, maybe overweight, or complacent in attitude, lethargic, overly protective, and you may be resistant or hesitant to change, even if it's healthy. So noticing what state you might be in or which of these doshas might apply the most to you. They're going to apply to your mind as well as to your physical characteristics. So do you know what your dosha is? And if you don't know, let's go ahead and share some of the quizzes. So these are two of my favorites. You can go online and go to chopra.com, or you can just search dosha quiz and you'll find a bunch of them, as it's become really, really popular now. So check out 2 or 3 that you can easily find and take those quizzes and compare them. And just see which ones resonate the most with you. Which ones really give you an understanding of who you are right now in your energetic qualities. And if you don't know your dosha, that's okay. Just kind of balance by the circadian rhythms and by the season. So we'll go through that in a moment. So as we focus on seasonal routines, and specifically the springtime, our goal is to basically create a healthy daily routine. We want to focus on identifying how nature has a natural rhythm with the sun and the moon and the temperatures and the light and the dark and even the 12 hours, and noticing that nature honors being on and being off, that birth of something is just as natural as a death of something, as the cycle goes on and on. So how do we play in this daily routine in creating each day? How do we then create our month in our life, each year in our life, and inevitably a whole lifestyle? So aligning yourself with nature's rhythm will facilitate the body's natural processes, including digestion, detoxification, and healing. We want to maximize health and longevity with periods of both activity, including mindful movement, and then looking at how can we include periods of rest, including a very consistent and healthy amount of sleep. So let's continue in looking at the rhythms of nature. What do we mean by that? Well, we might have heard of the circadian clock, right? Based on the 24-hour cycle of night and day. So in that 24-hour period, there's also 2 12-hour periods, the morning and the night. And we'll look at those and how it relates to what's known as the dosha clock. But then there's also a seasonal routine. And depending where you live, you may have 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, or if you're in India, you might have 6 or more seasons due to the differences in climate. So it's really important to understand, what does season mean to me? How does this apply to me? Including, how does it apply to the available foods around me and the temperature and qualities of the environment? And how does that impact me on the mind and body level? There's also the lunar cycle. It's such a beautiful time to look and reflect on the full moon and the new moon. And these are beautiful moments for reflection and planning and reviewing of how we live month to month. So the monthly cycle of the moon around the earth is also another way to look at and to identify how we evolve each month with the rhythms of nature. And then the tidal, there's even tidal rhythms, the gravitational influence of the moon on the water. So it gives pause to think, what other rhythms that we're not even aware of are there that are impacting me? So just some fun ways to connect with the rhythms of nature and how aware we are of how much nature changes. And so we can jump in and be a participant in the rhythms of nature to fine tune our daily activities for increased balance and harmony. So in Ayurveda, we look at 2 master cycles within that one circadian 24-hour clock. You can look at sort of an AM and a PM, and those 3 doshas that we talked about actually have corresponding hours on our clock. So now when you look at the clock, I want you to envision that there's 3 periods during the AM and 3 periods during the PM. And these hold so much information and guidance for matching what we're doing throughout the day to correspond with the natural energetic qualities of the environment and energies around us. So one of my favorite books, called The Power of Full Engagement, talks about this in a business performance basis. And it's very interesting that it also corresponds to these similar routine hours. So let's look at the 2 master cycles. The dosha clock in the AM, if we start at the 2 a.m., triggers us into what's known as the Vata period. So from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is this period where the space and the air qualities are very prominent. So usually we're asleep. So we want to wake up towards the end of the Vata period, as close to just before sunrise as possible, to capture and to plug in with the creativity and flow of that Vata energy period. And then the Kappa period in the morning is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this is where we want to move our body. We want to bring in some of that movement to awaken the earth and the water of the Kappa energy. So we definitely want to move during this period and definitely want to wake up well before 10 a.m. And then from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the Pitta. So that is when we want to digest our biggest meal around noon. So the Pitta, where our fire, our digestive fire, our agni is burning brightest, that is when Ayurveda says should be our biggest and most nutritionally dense meal. So now if we look at the PM cycle from 12 noon to 2 p.m., that's when the digestion period is starting to slow down. So we definitely want to stop eating around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at the absolute latest. Otherwise, the food's not going to get digested. So it's these kind of cues, by paying attention to the natural rhythms of the larger circadian pathways in our external body, that really impact and connect and communicate with our gastric juices and everything that's going on with digesting food. So between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., we get back into the Vata period. So in this point, we want to look at being focused and productive, and we want to start to slow down, maybe a early evening meditation to transition from our work energy to our home energy. And then the Kappa period at the end of the day, so that's the 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., is a wonderful time to slow down now. Bring in that relaxing activity, that connection and cohesion with loved ones around a dinner table, and a gentle, slow walk if you like. And definitely from 10 p.m. to midnight is when we want to be asleep. We want to be asleep by 10 p.m. at the latest, and we want to go to bed without food in our belly. Why? Because we don't want to have the pitta energy at night is used to detox and cleanse the body, including the brain. So the more food we have in our body, then the less the pitta agni can work on detoxifying and clearing the lymphatic system in our brain. So eating earlier and lighter dinners is really key to the dosha clock and the PM cycle. So there's lots more information on this, but a real quick tour. So just have your hands on the driving wheel. If you can just think of 10 and 2 when you drive a car, and that will show you kind of the steering points to keep an eye on your dosha clock throughout the day and how to pair the most energizing or calming activities to correspond with a specific time on the clock. And guess what? The doshas also correspond to the season. So it's amazing. So you take out the 24-hour period and now you expand it to the seasonal, the annual rotation of the doshas. So just as the circadian clock has dosha qualities, so too do the seasons. And in the springtime, it's really amazing. You can just feel sort of the frozen accumulation of the kappa energy melting. And what happens is that this can clog a lot of our mind-body channels known as the shrotas. So during the winter or in the early spring, the agni can get weaker and slows down the digestion and metabolism. So you might feel a sense of energy and vitality going down, leading to sluggishness, weight gain, and lack of energy. So in the springtime, we want to boost that. We want to clear out all that sluggishness so we can support the elimination of toxins from the body. We want to increase energy and vitality to support healthy weight management. And we want to learn how to relax the nervous system and calm the mind so we can reestablish our natural state of balance. So looking closer at the seasonal cycles and their influences, how they might impact or affect your level of balance. Our balance changes throughout the seasons. Are we aware of how our external environment can impact us at the mind-body connection? So let's look at the Vata season. This happens around late autumn in the fall through that winter period. Because of the blowing wind and the changeability, there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty. Now, in the Pitta season, Pitta is the sun, the solar energy. So that's going to fall like midsummer through early fall. And then the Kappa season is sort of this late winter, spring, and early summer. Okay. So to restore balance, we always want to balance with the opposites of the characteristics that are out of balance. So in Ayurveda, the seasonal rituals look at the doshas and the qualities. So in the fall and winter, we're looking at the Vata dosha, and which is mostly cold and dry. So to balance it, we want to do the opposite and bring in more of that warm and wetter, more nourishing, warmer foods, warmer activities. In the springtime, it's more of a Kappa dosha, which is cool and damp. It's very similar to Vata, but instead of being dry, it's damp. So we want to lighten that up a little bit, right? Get things moving again. And in the summer, of course, where the Pitta dosha is ruling, which is hot and sticky, if it's too much of that, we want to balance it by getting that cooler, right? And a little bit drier if needed. So in essence, it's quite simple. Ayurveda focuses on using the opposites of the characteristics that are out of balance to create balance. So as long as you know your dosha and as long as you can identify the characteristics out of balance, then we get to the real fun part of how to begin to balance our doshas by our daily routines. And we basically want to check in and just say, how am I feeling? Am I feeling more in a diseased state, or do I thrive and am I feeling healthy? How is my body? Is there structural imbalance, functional imbalance, bad elimination or digestion? And how's my mind? Are you feeling that brain fog, that lethargy, restlessness, or sadness? Or are you feeling the opposite of disease and experiencing this health and vibration from optimal nutrition, a balanced elimination and digestion? And how's the mind? Are you feeling the sense of alertness and focus, happiness and peace? So these are your clues to see where and what state you're in. And now knowing the characteristics of the doshas, how you can then begin to balance. So Ayurveda explains that any material or energy or principle that disturbs the mind body functions as a toxin. It could be environmental, like a toxic material. It could come from earth, water, air, food, drinks, and even what we're breathing in. So knowing the source of the toxins and then beginning to eliminate them. It could also be an imbalance from our doshas, our internal toxins, whether we're taking in the wrong foods or we're not properly able to digest what we bring into all of our five senses. If it doesn't match our nature, then it can be viewed as toxic. So don't eat just what everybody else is eating. We customize how to nurture our mind and body to our unique doshic characteristics. And then it could also be where could a toxin come from? Believe it or not, emotions. A negative thought can set the pathway for biochemical messengers that send out these molecules in our body that can contaminate the whole system and keep us in a state of dis-ease. So the whole system can cause inflammation and degeneration of our well-being. So from where are we identifying toxins and how can we eliminate them? In Ayurveda, agni is a central theme known as the fire or the principle of transformation. Our ability to digest that which we take in to our mind and body. And in Ayurveda, it's not just the food that we bring in, it's everything through the five senses, through what you see, smell, touch, feel, and hear. So knowing what's coming from the external environment, what are the doshic qualities of those information or energy sources? How is it coming into my body? Am I able to digest it? Is my fire burning brightly to digest that food, that information, that emotion, that experience? So the metabolic power, agni, is responsible for extracting nourishment and to help eliminating the toxins. Our whole health depends on proper digestion from all five senses. And when our digestive fire is strong and healthy, we can easily digest food and experiences, and we can extract the greatest level of nourishment from our diet and experience what's known as ojas, this essence of being, the nectar of good health. But when our digestion fire is weak or irregular, and we're not able to properly digest even potentially nourishing substances like organic foods, our body can start to accumulate internal toxins known as ama, or undigested bits of stuff. So we want to keep our agni strong, our ability to digest from all sensory input, by eating the proper amount and the correct type of foods, and by managing stress, which can dampen our fire or agni. So agni maintains this path of health and helps to prevent disease. From all the five senses, we digest, and we either create this path towards a strong agni, where we experience this subtle nourishment known as ojas through all of our channels, or we begin to weaken the agni, diminishing our ability to digest from all sensory inputs, leading to this accumulation of toxic residues throughout our shrotas, or circulatory channels, leading to ama, which is believed to be the beginning of all disease. So the 5 gateways to our inner pharmacy, the 5 senses, are key and are simple and wonderful tools to use in our everyday self-care. The qualities of these sensory impressions determine the qualities of our thoughts and feelings and related actions. So we want to favor experiences that lead to balance and to promote well-being for our unique doshic constitution. Now, to balance the mind, we want to focus on a sense of smell, sight, and sound, first of all. And when we look to balance the body, we can focus on taste and touch. Now, the doshas are tuned into nature. The question is, are we? Vata, the Vata dosha, is connected more with the sound of with sound and touch. And Pitta is directly connected with sight, and Kappa is directly connected with taste and smell. So balancing through taste is another wonderful and exploratory area to balance your overall well-being. Ayurveda supports the identification of eating all 6 tastes and foods to balance the dosha. So there's 6 tastes of sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. So if we eat the colors of the rainbow, we're most likely going to include a wide variety of fresh, organic foods, and this will help to support your agni. Of course, as we eat, as we consume, we want to establish mindful eating practices so that we're aware of what we're bringing in and allowing and honoring the digestive process. So join us next month for a closer look at the 6 tastes in our discussions on food as medicine. So in the spring, let's just review what a spice blend known as a churna would be great for a spring Kappa changeable season. So you can include 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, black pepper, coriander, turmeric, Himalayan salt, and ground cinnamon, and maybe just a little bit of cayenne pepper. So you can combine all of these in a spice blender or a coffee grinder until it's ground into a fine powder. And if you like, you can store this in an airtight glass or stainless steel container and use this to sprinkle onto your food as the spring Kappa season is changing towards spring to bring in that movement. And then balancing through touch. So as we look at spring, we want to bring down the changing of the air and the space. So the best time to do this and to help eliminate some of the built up toxins is to do what's called a whole body massage known as abhyanga. And you can use oil, natural oils, on the body as well as in the nasal passages. That practice is known as nausea. So a practice of regular massage and loving touch is wonderful to help detoxify the body's tissues. So the daily self-massage is something I do every day and is recommended in Ayurveda as an important part of a daily self-care routine. As our skin is the largest organ, by daily attuning to it, it helps to calm the mind. It helps to improve circulation. It also provides enhancement to the immune function. So for more Vata energies, you want to favor heavier, warmer oils, such as maybe a sesame or almond oil. And for Pitta energies, you want to favor more cooling or soothing oils like coconut, sunflower, or olive oil. And for Kappas, you want to favor a light, warming oil such as sunflower, safflower, or even mustard oil. Mustard oil can be a little warm, so just depending on what time of the season it is. And then maybe also do a dry brush. So if you feel like there's a lot of accumulated dry skin, or if you feel too much of that Kappa energy, that heaviness, you want to use a dry brush or one of those loofah sponges before you shower to help with that circulation and to get rid of the dead skin, so your skin can help again fully function to get rid of the toxins and communicate fully with its external environment. So essential oils for the winter Vata season blend to support your immune system at this changing season. So you can include essential oils and get the best quality oils you can afford. 30 drops of lemon oil, 20 drops of cinnamon, 15 drops of clove oil, very, very spicy, 15 drops of eucalyptus, perhaps one of my favorite oils, and 10 drops of rosemary oil. So rosemary, I love to use in my hair. Um, anyway, that's a whole other discussion, but you can combine all of these in a clean glass container, make it dark, like amber or blue is best to prevent any damage from the sun or light. And you can add a carrier oil. So half of the bottle might be a carrier oil, depending again on which of your doshas you are looking to balance. And if you have sensitive skin, you might try jojoba oil or sesame oil. And you can use 1 to 2 times a day or some drops on your feet, also at the base of your neck and top of your scalp. I love to do it at the bottoms of my feet at night and just put on some light socks for 30 minutes or so, or leave them on overnight. So including this will help to just bring down that change of the season, to calm it down, nourish it, and also help with detoxification. So have fun with that. And then if you would like to do the dry brushing, if you really just feel like you want to slough off that dead skin, get yourself, invest in a wonderful dry brush. One of these fancy long ones are wonderful. You can reach all the way down to your feet, which most of the time we just don't pay much attention to our poor feet. You can also do your face, and then there's guides for dry brushing your whole body. So to conclude, to enhance our life force, we want to begin to be aware of everything we take in from all 5 senses. We want to keep our agni strong, our digestion at peak firing state. And we want to make sure that we include all 6 tastes in every meal. And then, if you'd like, begin the self-care with a daily self-massage. It'll be good for your skin. It'll help ground you, help reduce stress. And loving self-compassion is such a healing tonic to do on a regular, if not daily basis. So that concludes our discussion for today. And I want to invite you to join us next month for our discussion on food as medicine. We'll meet on the second Wednesday of April, April 14th at 12 noon Central Standard Time. And please register in advance to receive your Zoom link. You can go to San Antonio Library Events Calendar or connect with me online. So as a reference, these are some of the books that I referenced for our discussion today. And one of my favorite quotes, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." So my wish is that you can incorporate some of these daily self-care routines to begin your habit for nourishing self-care. So thank you everybody for joining. My name again is Maggie Gruskin, and I'd love to hear back from you. You can text me or email me and connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Maggie Gruskin. Thanks again, and hope you'll join us again next month for Food as Medicine.